Welcome to Articulate Storyline Accessibility with JAWS Screen Reader. This presentation discusses how to set up your Articulate Storyline presentation to be compatible with the screen reader. After reviewing this presentation, your user will be able to discuss how to use the Check Accessibility feature with Microsoft PowerPoint, how to enter alt text using Articulate Storyline, the 3 requirements for Articulate Storyline to work with the screen reader, and determine how to navigate through an Articulate Storyline presentation with JAWS Screen Reader. I import many of my Articulate Storyline presentations from Microsoft PowerPoint. One of the reasons for this is a very useful tool called the Accessibility Checker, which checks for issues that might prevent your presentation from being fully accessible. This assures that there are no duplicate titles in each slide, each picture or object has alt text associated with it, and it allows the user to change the reading order of objects on our slides. Remember, this is not a fail-safe tool for accessibility. It is also very important to review your presentation through a screen reader to ensure accessibility. To activate the checker within PowerPoint 2010 or later, you need to select File, and in my presentation I'm working with PowerPoint 2010. I click on then Info, and then here Check for Issues. And then finally I would select Check Accessibility. What you're going to see is that now a accessibility checker window appears on the right hand side. There are 2 sections to this window. Errors displays items we must correct in order to make our presentation accessible. Tips shows items we want to check and might consider changing to make our presentation more accessible. The Errors section includes any alt text that would be missing from your presentation. It is important to a screen reader that a user have alt text to describe objects or pictures in your presentation, since they are not able to view the slide but can only hear what the screen reader tells them. The screen reader reads the alt text so the user can understand what the presentation is displaying. You can see that one of our slides is missing alt text. We can enter alt text by clicking on the object that we want to add alt text. So I'm going to click on here first of all to make sure that we do go to the slide. You can see that the slide is displayed here. So what I'm going to do is click on the object that is missing alt text. I'm going to right click with my mouse, and I'm going to select here Size and Position. And then what I'm going to do here is select alt text within the Format Picture window. Once I'm in the alt text section, I will enter my alt text here where it says description. In this example, instead of typing in, I actually have alt text that I'm just going to paste here into the presentation just for time purposes. You'll notice once I enter the alt text that it disappears from the accessibility checker window. So I'm going to click on here, Close. So we've taken care of the alt text. Now what we want to do is take a look at the tip section and see what else we can do here. Well, we can see here that the first item shows there is a duplicate slide title. So what I'm going to do here is click this on and see that both slides have behavior as the title. I'm going to go in here and change this, and notice when I type in my name no longer have duplicate slides, that it disappears from the accessibility checker because the issue is resolved. It's important that every slide title have a unique name to provide easier navigation from someone who can't view the slide. We also notice in the tip section of the Check Accessibility window that it says Check Reading Order. We have to open up the selection pane by clicking on to change the order by going here to Arrange icon and then selecting Selection Pane. What you're going to notice on the far right here is then the Selection and Visibility window. What you're going to find is that items do appear in this window in reverse order. Someone who is using a screen reader will hear the slide, text, shapes, and content read back in a certain order. You need to review the reading order to make sure it makes sense in the order they will be read back to the screen reader user. Although the title is on the bottom of the selection pane, it is actually on top. We can change the reading order of the slides by selecting the item that we want to change and selecting the up and down arrow. As you can see here, I can go through and very easily change the order of the elements within my slide. Now that we have completed working with the accessibility checker, we're now ready to import the presentation to Articulate Storyline. To import your PowerPoint presentation that you checked for accessibility, you would start by opening the Articulate Storyline. So I'm just clicking on my little icon here. Once you open Articulate Storyline, the program takes you to a splash page. From there, what we would do is we would click on the item in the upper left-hand corner, Import, and then select Import PowerPoint. What we're going to do now is select the PowerPoint file that we want to import into Storyline. So I'm just going to take a PowerPoint file here. And this process could take a few minutes. But what's nice is that it did download pretty quickly for us. Every slide should be highlighted for the importing, but you have a choice of selecting certain slides to be imported. In this presentation, we're going to assume that all slides need to be imported. We'll click the Import button to have the slides imported. This will insert these slides into a new scene, which name will default to the title of the PowerPoint file. As you can see down at the bottom here, the name of the presentation is in the scene. What you can do is change the name by just erasing here and then typing in a name that you want to call the presentation, just as I did there. Your alt text in PowerPoint should transfer over to Articulate Storyline. If you want to add alt text in Articulate Storyline, you would use the same process as with PowerPoint. Select the object you would like to add alt text, right-click with your mouse, and select Size and Position. And then I'm going to select here alt text. This will allow you to add alt text if you need to update alt text from your PowerPoint file that you imported into Storyline, or if you're creating a presentation within Storyline. This would be where we would enter alt text. As you can see, the alt text is already entered. A user using a screen reader would tab on each object within the slide. When the user tabs on an object with alt text, the screen reader will read the alt text. There may be some objects that are not necessary to tab to, like a logo. In this instance, you would remove the check mark from Object is invisible to accessibility tools. If you do not remove the check mark, the screen reader user will have to tab to the logo on each screen, which is redundant and adds an extra step to the navigation on each screen. So it's very important when you're working with objects to specify what objects you want to have the screen reader read and which ones they do not. One important note with Articulate Storyline is that it supports JAWS screen reading software 16.0, Microsoft Internet Explorer, and Adobe Flash Player 10.3. You can download these softwares by going to their respective websites to be able to download them for free. The JAWS screen reader allows you to download a trial version that would be free. This works 40 minutes and then you need to restart your computer. As far as what Articulate Storyline supports and does not support, I learned this the hard way when I found out that when I was working with JAWS that Articulate Storyline does not support Google Chrome. The screen reader was not able to read the alt text. I later learned that Articulate Storyline supports Internet Explorer and not Google Chrome. Now let's take a look at how JAWS works with Articulate Storyline to get an idea of what a JAWS user would hear when working with the program within Articulate Storyline. It is always a good practice to run through the presentation with JAWS to ensure your presentation is accessible. So what I'm going to do now is click on my button here, JAWS. It does take a little bit for this to load up.
JAWS Professional Start button to open. Press Enter. Activation dialog. This application requires authorization to run on this system and will continue in 40-minute mode. For a full version, please select the Update Authorization button. Update Authorization button.
What I'm going to do here is click on Continue to Run in 40-minute mode, which is our trial version.
Start button to open. Press Enter. Task Switcher list box. Handbook ... http://userpages.umg.edu/tilde/1/story.sw left-internet explorer userpages.umg.edu. Designing learning objectives accessibility.
We're going to use the tab key to move through the presentation. Again, somebody who was using JAWS Screen Reader, who probably wouldn't be able to see the screen, would be hearing this working with the program.
Tab, title dash behavior graphic.
And what I'm going to do here, when I click on tab, it's going to click on this picture, and you're going to notice that it's going to read the alt text.
Tab, a mouse is in a cage. The cage has an electrified grid at the bottom. Food dispenser with a response lever, loudspeaker, and lights. Graphic.
So you can see that it actually reads the alt text.
Tab, CC button.
And then it shows little buttons here for closed captioning.
Tab, skip navigation. Hit enter to return to this tab. Previous button. Tab, next button.
That would be how the person working with JAWS Screen Reader would be able to move through the presentation, because you can see that it does tell them where the previous and the next button is, and then they just press enter to move through the presentation.
Tab, menu tab. To activate tab page, press space bar. Tab, narration tab. To activate tab page, press space bar.
On narration, I'm going to press tab.
Space. Tab, behavior edit, type in text.
And watch what happens here.
Tab, we will now discuss the second protocol of objectives and behavior edit, type in text.
What the narration does is, this is information I've entered in my notes. So you can see here, this is a nice way for the JAWS Screen Reader to read any of the text associated with the presentation, so the user can get the full effect of the presentation. So that just gives you a little example as far as working with the JAWS Screen Reader. Let's say now that you've uploaded your presentation to a website, it's nice to let the users know exactly what your presentation supports. So I might include on the website here exactly what these requirements are for the presentation to run with JAWS Screen Reader. What I've also done is include links to each website to be able to download those programs if the user does not have them. Although I have an accessible presentation, there might be additional accessibility needs for your users. For instance, having a presentation with larger print on it. You can include here your email address. So if there are additional accessibility needs that any of your users would have, there'd be an easy way for them to get in touch with you, and also make sure that the users know then that you're really trying to accommodate any of their accessibility needs. Thank you for taking the time to watch this presentation. I hope to be providing new presentations here in the near future. If you take the time to provide feedback about the presentation that you saw today.